indigenous Maori people arrived in New Zealand between 1200–1300 CE, and their warriors often used jade patas to attack enemies. The weapons were typically used to thrust or jab, and when not in use, they hung from soldiers' belts as a sign of prestige. Elite Maori chieftains treated prized paddles as heirlooms, keeping the polished jade in the family. Allegedly, some defeated warriors even requested to be slain by their own patas in battle instead of by enemies' weapons. Ngombe and Ngulu sword. The Ngombe and Ngulu sword is named for the tribe that created it in the late 1800s. The Ngombe people lived in what is now the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Historians don't completely agree on the sword's use. Some say it was for executions, while others believe it was purely ornamental, marking a man's rank or tribe status. Harmonica Gun. Harmonica guns were aptly named because the magazine was shaped like a harmonica, extending horizontally from the barrel. They could fire at high capacities without needing to be reloaded. Makers including Jonathan Browning allegedly created the weapons in the mid-19th century, and the technology could be adapted for both pistols and rifles. Zulfiqar, the Scimitar of Mohammed. The Prophet Mohammed allegedly gave his sword, Zulfiqar, to son-in-law and cousin Ali ibn Abi Talib during the 625 CE Battle of Uhud. A variation of a scimitar, the Zulfiqar blade is curved with modified saw teeth, and it's split into two separate points. Some people suggest this dual prong would make fighting impossible, so the true form of the weapon is not entirely clear. African Kpinga throwing knife. Aztec warriors typically used this weapon in battle in the first half of the 18th century. Kpinga throwing knives were almost 2 feet long with 3 separate blades, and they were usually used within a range of about 30 feet. About 3 or 4 of these blades were brought into battle behind soldiers' shields, meaning Aztec foes were often met with nasty surprises. Also called the hungamunga, the throwing knife might also be included in a wedding dowry. Italian boarding sword. The Italian boarding sword was an extremely practical armament for the Italian Navy in the early 1500s. It was named for its ability to help Italian army men board enemy ships. The tiny point on the end of the weapon allowed the wielder to thrust at oncoming invaders, and the saw blade could be used to cut ropes and rigging. Some boarding swords were 34 long with a 28 blade. Zhua grabbing claw. The Zhua grabbing claw was a pole-like weapon, and ancient Chinese warrior Sun Tzu is rumored to have used it around 510 BC. Usually 6 feet long with an actual clawed iron hand on the end, the weapon was used to tear shields away from opponents, or possibly even pull a man off horseback. The claws were quite sharp and could easily tear flesh. Chinese hook sword. Traditional hook swords were typically used by northern Chinese martial artists. Many people believe the blades date back to the Qing era about 1644, 1912, or later. Sometimes referred to as tiger hook blades, these thin weapons were allegedly created for civilian use. Nest of bees arrows. Used by 14th century Ming warriors, these arrows were a lot like primitive rocket launchers. No bees were actually used. A hexagonal tube typically held 32 individual rocket-propelled arrows, which could all be launched simultaneously at high speeds. Indian Katar. Traditional Katars sometimes had a shaped handle and trigger mechanism. During battle, the single blade could spring open into 3 separate points, making the armament like a claw. This Indian weapon, which dates from before the 19th century, was often used in hand-to-hand combat. Aztec Macuahuitl. Aztec Macuahuitl.
Hey guys, thank you so much for the support and likes and comments down below, and also thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to see you in the next video. Then take care, bye.